Good afternoon, everybody. My name's Acting Chief Jason Reed with Montclair Police Department. Pleased to be here for our very first annual meeting regarding the department's military equipment policy. This is a required meeting that's to be held as a community engagement meeting once a year. And the topics of discussion are going to be covered in a slideshow that I have put together regarding the matter. So if we could pull up the slideshow, I want to mention that we have some members joining from Zoom. At the conclusion of my PowerPoint presentation, if there are any questions, feel free to use the raise hand feature, or anyone in the room has any questions, and we'll answer those questions the best we can. Okay, a little bit of background on the military equipment policy that departments in California are required to follow. Assembly Bill 481 required law enforcement agencies across the state, such as Montclair Police Department, to obtain approval through City Council to adopt a military equipment use policy by ordinance. The purpose of this is not only for the funding, acquisition, or use of new military equipment, but also for the continued use of existing equipment that this assembly bill then deemed military equipment by definition. Assembly Bill 481, which created Government Code 7070, created 15 categories of equipment that was now deemed to be called military equipment. A side note is all of our equipment that we are in possession of at the Montclair Police Department, we've always been in possession of this equipment, and we've gone through approval processes in the past through City Council, of course, during the normal budgeting process to obtain this equipment, some of it over the course of 25 or so years that we've been utilizing this equipment. With the new Assembly Bill 481, the law has titled some of this equipment that we're in possession of as military equipment, so we're now required to abide by the processes set forth in the law. Now, a portion of this military equipment policy is that we have to include a thorough documented inventory in our military equipment list, which is part of our policy manual, which is readily available online by visiting Montclair's website, cityofmontclair.org. If you were to look at our website, you'll see that posted is our entire policy manual, but however, there's a special tab for the military equipment policy, and its section is 707. You'll be able to find a document. Now, this is just the first page of our policy, but you'll find a document in our manual that you can thumb through or scroll through and read our entire policy on the use, acquisition, and possession of the equipment that's now deemed military style equipment. The document you see on the right, you'll also find that in our policy manual. That's just the first page of it, but that's what it appears. That is our entire inventory of equipment that we are in possession of at Montclair PD. A little background continued on Assembly Bill 481. It further required, once a military equipment use policy was established, which we did get established, an annual report needs to be completed and posted on our public website. We already posted that annual report on the website, and we'll talk about that in a minute. And the reason we had to do that is because of newly formed Government Code 7072. On that annual report are the 5 items listed there: a summary of how the military equipment was used and the purpose of its use, a summary of any complaints, concerns received concerning the military equipment, the results of any internal audits or information about violations of the military equipment use policy, the total annual cost and quantity for each type of military equipment, including acquisition, personnel, training, transportation, maintenance, storage, upgrade, other ongoing costs, and from what source funds will be provided for the military equipment in the calendar year following submission of the report. And also Montclair Police Department's intention to acquire additional military equipment in the next year, including the quantity sought for each type of equipment. So that's a lot of information. However, it's all contained in the military equipment annual report, which I'll show in a second. A little bit of a timeline that explains what the City of Montclair and the Montclair Police Department did to be in compliance with the Assembly Bill. On March 7th, 22, we had a first reading to consider the ordinance, which was number 22-1000, a Montclair City ordinance, adopting a military equipment use policy. And that included a draft policy of the section that I showed a couple slides earlier. In March 21st, 2022, we had a second reading to consider the option of the adoption of the military equipment use policy. And at that point, the draft policy 707 was approved and made official, including the military equipment inventory list that we have attached to it. And again, this policy is published on the police department's website. A timeline, a little bit further of a timeline, April 17th, 2023, the military equipment annual report was completed by myself, and it was submitted to then Chief of Police Robert Abels. On April 17th, 2023, the annual report was posted to the Montclair PD website. And on May 1st, 2023, City Council meeting, there was an agenda to consider approval of the annual report and establish community engagement meeting, which we are all here today attending. So the annual equipment report that appears on our website that I was speaking about appears, this is what the document appears to be. It's a memo from me to the Chief of Police, and it covers all of those topics, which we'll cover here shortly. Now, part of the annual military equipment report, you have to state the usage of each type of military equipment during the calendar year since the policy was implemented. We had 6 usages of military equipment during the past year, which we keep documentation of here at the police department. The first one, it was on March 31st, 2022. The Montclair Police Command Trailer was utilized at the scene of a hazardous material incident on State Street in Montclair, where there was a large explosion at the location. The command trailer was utilized for approximately for several hours until about 10:30 at night. To explain what our command trailer is, many of our Montclair residents and staff have seen it. It's a white vehicle trailer pulled behind a truck. It says Montclair Police on the side, has air conditioning and a restroom in it, and inside it's used. Its only purpose is for community engagement events. However, it's also used as shelter at events such as these for a command center. And it can also be used as a temporary dispatch center in the event that our dispatch center undergoes severe maintenance or a problem. The second usage was on April 4th, 2022. Upland Police Department, our neighboring agency, requested the use of our armored personnel carrier during a high-risk search warrant. And it was requested and used as ballistic protection as officers approached a high-risk search warrant location. And it remained at the location and for a position of retreat if needed. And one of our officers responded as the driver and assisted for approximately 2.5 hours at that location. Thankfully, that incident came to a peaceful closure, and the vehicle was not needed during that incident. To explain what our armored personnel carrier is, it's a very familiar vehicle in the Montclair community. It's utilized a lot at community outreach events. It's an armored vehicle. I'll have a picture of it later. It says Montclair Police on it. It's utilized for protection of the people inside it. It doesn't have any weapons equipped on it. And it is a great attraction at some of our community events for children, taking families to take pictures with as well. Our third usage was on April 20th, 2022. Again, Upland Police Department requested use of that same vehicle during a high-risk call regarding deceased subjects inside of a residence, and there was an ongoing standoff type situation. Again, the vehicle was used for the same purpose, ballistic protection. It remained at the location for retreat if needed. And it was used for approximately 4 hours at the location. But again, that event also came to peaceful closure, and we were again able to help out a neighboring agency with that same vehicle. The fourth usage was on May 2nd, 2022. Upland Police Department requested use of the armored personnel carrier again during a high-risk search warrant for the same reason, about 3.5 hours. And that came to a peaceful conclusion as well. The vehicle was not needed in any fashion in that. The fifth equipment usage, this was a fun event, but we still have to list that the usage of this equipment even at community events, but was June 4th, 2022, the city hosted its annual Country Fair Jamboree. And the police department, we had the Peacekeeper, which is that armored vehicle in our command trailer, displayed at the location. It was for several hours. Members of the community came and took pictures with the vehicles. Like I mentioned before, the children love to crawl around in it, but we provide them some police gear to wear and take photos with it. And we also use the command trailer at that event for a place for us to engage with the community and provide some shelter for us. Usage number 6, August 2nd, the annual National Night Out event, same type of event, community outreach event. Those 2 vehicles were used for the same purpose. Part of the annual report, we're required to report any complaints or concerns regarding any of our military equipment or its usage. There were no complaints or concerns received by the police department regarding the usage of the military equipment. There was no issues of finding anybody at the PD not being in compliance with the policy. And this information was maintained on the website. On our department's website, there's a portal and my name is listed there as the contact information for anyone that has any questions throughout the year, any concerns. And of course, we have a citizen complaint form procedure as well, but we did not receive any questions, concerns regarding the military equipment throughout the year. Internal audits or violations. Throughout the year, multiple audits were conducted of the possession, maintenance, cleaning, and training of the military equipment, mainly by Technical Services Division as part of their normal duties, and no violations were found to have occurred. Part of the annual report required us to mention our annual cost, ongoing cost, and funding sources for the equipment. Attached to the annual report is entire inventory of the police department's military equipment and funding sources for the existing military equipment remain the same for the following year. That report, again, is available to view as part of this slideshow, but also as part of our policy manual here at the PD. Now, I mentioned earlier, there are several categories that Assembly Bill 481 deemed equipment to be titled military equipment and fall under the requirement to report it in this fashion. I'll briefly go over all of those categories, but I'll also mention that Montclair PD does not have equipment in each one of these categories, only a few of them. Category 1, defined by law, is any unmanned, remotely piloted, powered aerial or ground vehicles, which we do not have any equipment. Category 2 is listed as mine-resistant, ambush protected vehicles or armored personnel carriers. As mentioned, we do have our armored personnel carrier vehicle as category 2. Category 3, which we do not have any equipment in this category, is listed as high mobility, multi-purpose wheeled vehicles, 2.5-ton trucks, 5-ton trucks, wheeled vehicles, large military style equipment vehicles. We do not have any of those types of vehicles that fit in that category. Category 4, which we do not have any equipment in, is tracked armored vehicles that provide ballistic protection to their occupant. Tracked meaning tracks like a tank would have, not tracking device. It means the wheels on the vehicle. We do not have any vehicles in that category. Category 5, command and control vehicles that are either built or modified to facilitate the operational control and direction of public safety units. We do have one vehicle in that category, and that is the aforementioned command trailer, the mobile command trailer. Category 6, we do not have any equipment in this category. That's weaponized aircraft, vessels, or vehicles of any kind. Category 7, we do not have any equipment in this category. That category is battering rams, slugs, and breaching apparatuses that are explosive in nature. Category 8, again, we do not have any equipment in this category. Firearms and ammunitions of 50 caliber or greater, excluding standard issue shotguns and standard issue shotgun ammunition. Category 9, specialized firearms and ammunition of less than 50 caliber, including firearms and accessories identified as assault weapons in Penal Code 30510 and Penal Code 30515, with the exception of standard issue handguns. We do have equipment in this category, which we'll speak about shortly. Category 10, any firearm or firearm accessory that is designed to launch explosive projectiles. We do not have any items in this category. Category 11, no items in this category as well. Noise, flash, diversionary devices, and explosive breaching tools. Category 12, munitions containing tear gas or OC, excluding standard service issued handheld pepper spray. We do have items in this category, which we'll discuss shortly. Category 13, taser, shockwave, microwave weapons, water cannons, and long-range acoustic devices. We do have an item in this category, which is the long-range acoustic device, which is a shared item between multiple agencies in the county. We'll discuss that. Category 14, kinetic energy weapons and munitions. We do have items in this category, which we'll discuss. And lastly, category 15, any other equipment is determined by governing body or state agency to require additional oversight. We've not identified any equipment in that category. In category 12, we have tear gas. The department sought and received approval to replenish CN, and this is during the this last year, to replenish CN and CS gas as the items became expired via their advertised shelf life. The department is currently budgeted for in the process of acquiring approximately $4,000 worth of various items of CN and CS gas within this category prior to July 1st, 2023. And the funding source was the general fund. And again, these items were not utilized in the field. We already spoke of all the items we utilized. This is just to replenish items that are expiring due to their shelf life. Category 12, tear gas. The department sought and received approval through a city council agenda report on June 6th, 2022 to purchase 4 pepper ball projectile systems. One of them, which is on display up here on the front counter. The city council approved the purchase of 4 new systems, which replaced our old systems, which were approximately getting close to 20 years old. And again, these are items that we've already been in possession for almost 2 decades. We just replaced them with a newer style, with the same style apparatus. The purchase was completed August 4th, 2022, totaling $5,700 and 375 projectiles, replenished our inventory as we do use these items for training during the year. The funding source for these items was the Federal Asset Forfeiture Fund. Again, we did not deploy any of these items in the field during the last reporting year, only for training. Category 12, projectile launch platforms. Department sought and received approval to purchase 150 12 gauge 40 gram lead-filled cotton ballistic fiber blend projectiles, which are expelled through a Remington 870 shotgun. The short term for that is beanbag or less lethal launcher. It's a less lethal munition that officers carry in their vehicles. The purchase of these was to replenish projectiles utilized for training. Again, the cost was $930. Funding source was the general fund. And again, none of these were deployed in the field during the last year. Armored personnel carrier. Now we're on to a new topic here. This is the intent to acquire additional military equipment during next year. As some may know, in category 2, we have an armored personnel carrier. We're in possession of 1 Peacekeeper brand armored rescue vehicle, which we spoke of several times. It's a vehicle that we use to assist Upland PD and also utilized for our community events. The current vehicle that we have is a 1980 year model. It's been possessed by Montclair PD for over 25 years. City Council approved the purchase of a replacement vehicle for that armored carrier. It fits in the same category. It is the brand name is Lenco Bearcat G3. And on June 6th, pursuant to agreement number 22-43 with San Bernardino County, the city received approval to fund that purchase out of the Public Safety Grant Fund for $336,000. Additional approval from City Council for accessories for that vehicle, be that it's part of the military equipment, was also approved separately. $2,111 for an oil pan armoring kit so that the oil pan isn't compromised if it were to take gunfire, and a camera system for $2,317. That's to assist in a 360 view to more safely operate the vehicle for the driver. Funding source for that equipment was the Federal Asset Forfeiture Fund. I've included a picture of our current vehicle on the right. That's the vehicle that some of us are familiar with. That's the armored personnel carrier. The new Lenco Bearcat that is currently being produced, which in another state will appear similar to this vehicle here. The color will be different. However, there's multiple purposes and uses for the vehicle in the same category. That includes my PowerPoint presentation. At this time, I'd like to open up if there's anyone that has any questions, comments, concerns regarding our military equipment use policy or the annual report or anything that they've seen discussed here today. And if there are no questions, this meeting will continue until 6:00 p.m. We will all be here in the EOC Center and on Zoom. If anyone has any further questions, comments, or concerns, feel free to hop on, hit the raise hand feature, or come on in and ask any questions. We have some items on display up front here. if anyone would like to take a look or ask any questions, we have an expert sergeant here also that can talk anything you want about any of these munitions that we possess here at the police department. So without any questions, I'll step aside. And again, if anyone has any questions till 6 o'clock, please feel free to hop on. We will post this this PowerPoint on our city's website under the police department. Also, we will post this video for anyone who was unable to attend in person but can watch it anytime. Thank you.
Hi, good evening, Captain Reed. I did have one question. In terms of the Lenco Bearcat, will there be additional training that will be required for Montclair PD personnel?
Yes, upon us being in receipt of that vehicle, there will be no one will operate that vehicle without being trained first on how to drive it, its safety features, its abilities, its capabilities, its top speeds, safe speeds, what types of rounds it can reject or deflect. So yes, a piece of equipment like that, even with our current armored vehicle, no one operates that vehicle without first going through in-house training regarding the operation of the vehicle and its capabilities. Also, we will respond to the location and meet with the vendor who's back in Massachusetts, who's assembling this vehicle at this time to get some preliminary training. But yes, there's definitely nobody will operate or utilize that vehicle unless there's some training conducted prior.
Awesome, thank you.
You're welcome.